So there's this really neat thing called Breaking Bad. Spoilers for Breaking Bad! Breaking Bad was truly one of the greatest viewing experiences I've ever had. Truly. The amount of iconic moments it spawned over its short half a decade on air is nothing short of astounding. Of course, the show would not be the same without its iconic main character, Walter White. AKA Heisenberg, AKA Mr. White, AKA Mr. Lambert, AKA Grandpa Anus, AKA Mr. Wallaby. Call him what you want, Walt has ingrained himself in the minds of many. What he is most known for, however, is being a loving and caring father to his family. But even though his efforts to raise money before he died of lung cancer are well documented, there are still a ton of lingering questions that remain about his hobbies and interests. The most important question, however, is one that calls his entire moral character into question. Did Walter White see Shrek? Shrek, of course, being... you know what Shrek is. So what's the deal? Did Walter White watch Shrek? There are actually a ton of clues scattered throughout the show which can help us develop a working theory. In the episode 51, Walter White talks with his wife about the Pixar film Ratatouille.
They're watching Ratatouille. It's very sweet.
Notice how Walt behaves when he brings up Ratatouille. He appears to be very happy. He even refers to the movie as, quote, very sweet. This appreciation for Ratatouille disproves a theory I had initially feared to be true. The theory that Walt doesn't respect animated movies. In the episode Hazard Pay, we see Walter and his son watching the movie Scarface, showing that Walt has an appreciation for live-action movies, specifically badass live-action movies. Taking into account the fact that Walter White also appreciates animated movies, it would also stand to reason that he loves badass animated movies. Simple syllogism, really. And of course, we all know that the most badass animated movie is Rango 2011. Unfortunately, however, Walter White died before he was able to experience Rango 2011. But luckily, Shrek was released in 2001, so Walter was no doubt able to experience the second most badass animated movie. Walter White's protege, Jesse Pinkman, is another likely Shrek watcher for one simple reason. Jesse is the only character shown playing Sonic 06. That, as we all know, is the internet funny game. This is just one instance where Jesse is shown to be epic. It's along the same lines as when he mentioned MILFs on his website. MILFs, of course, being... Badger and Skinny Pete are boyfriends. Because Badger and Skinny Pete are very close to Jesse, it is very possible that they all watch Shrek as a group. Oh, Jesse, you classic third wheel, you. Skyler White is the first character on Breaking Bad who I doubt has seen Shrek. We see over the course of the show that Skyler is depressed. She wears lots of blue clothes and rarely ever smiles. This type of depression can only be caused by one thing: never having watched Shrek. Over the course of the series, there aren't a lot of places where it is obvious Skyler could have watched Shrek. She's always either writing short stories or killing her lungs, which leaves no time at all to watch Shrek. Unless she has a portable DVD player or a Game Boy Advance with that one Shrek cartridge, I'll bet you forgot that existed, and watch Shrek during one of her car trips with Holly. But Skyler is a responsible person. She would never do such a thing. I'm sorry to say this, but Skyler is the first character on this list who probably hasn't watched Shrek. But sometimes you can't let responsibilities hold you down. That's why Hank Schrader has watched Shrek. That's right, screw the justice system. Remember when I brought up the episode 51 earlier? Well, in case you forgot, the people Walt specifically mentions watching Ratatouille are Hank and Marie. This could imply that, like Walt, Hank and Marie can recognize animated movies like Shrek as high art. But, I hear you saying, we only know of Hank and Marie watching Ratatouille together. Could that mean that Hank only watches animated movies with Marie? There's also the question of when they're watching Ratatouille. Do they only watch animated movies around when they're first released? First of all, both those qualifiers are stupid. Second of all, the second Breaking Bad minisode, Wedding Day, confirms that Hank and Marie got married in 1998. This immediately discounts both of these qualifiers, as it also confirms that Hank and Marie were together before Shrek was even released. With this in mind, it is only logical to assume that Hank and Marie saw Shrek in theaters. Steve Gomez is Hank's boyfriend. So clearly they watched Shrek together too, right? Walter White Jr. is actually kind of a combo of his dad and Jesse Pinkman. He likes badass things, and he also uses the internet a lot. He makes a damn website, after all. So yeah, he'd probably watch Shrek. Holly White was one of the few characters in Breaking Bad to have not been alive when Shrek was released. This makes her a filthy Gen Zer. Tragically for her, Holly White probably watched YouTube Kids Elsagate videos before she even was aware of Shrek's existence. Crazy 8, I doubt that he watched Shrek. Because in the series, you can see very clearly that he underestimates Walter White. In the pilot episode, when Walter White first brings them into the trailer, Crazy 8 didn't anticipate that Walter would totally accidentally create a reaction that would produce phosphine gas. He failed to recognize that Walter could make any mistakes. He failed to realize that Walter isn't perfect, and that he really has layers. Like an onion, this lesson beautifully taught to us by Shrek 2001. And since Crazy 8 obviously didn't learn this lesson yet, I think it's safe to assume that he hasn't seen Shrek. Tuco Salamanca probably hasn't watched Shrek by himself, but if we consider the next character, Hector Salamanca is a sad case, because he had plenty of opportunities to watch Shrek. Unfortunately, whenever we see him before he has his stroke, he's typically either counting money or being a loving uncle to two other characters we'll talk about later. Shrek also wasn't released when Hector was a child, or before season 2 of Better Call Saul, so that just leaves the period after Hector's stroke. In all of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, we never see Hector watching Shrek in the Casa Tranquila nursing home. However, in the Breaking Bad Season 2 episode Grilled, we see Hector watching a telenovela while he's living with Tuco. This indicates Hector's interest in on-screen romance. Therefore, this is very beneficial to our case, because, while people tend to think that Shrek is all just golden and thumb, at its core, the original Shrek movie is a love story. Therefore, we can confirm that sometime when Hector was living with Tuco, the two did in fact watch Shrek, because both of them like romance movies. Just when all seemed lost, Shrek wormed his way into Hector's heart. I'm gonna go a bit out of introductory order and finish up this little Salamanca subsection with the cousins. Did they watch Shrek? Fucking no. Literally, why would they bother wasting time on the silly ogre movie when they can spend time with their uncle and hunt down Heisenberg? To ask for his autograph, totally not for anything nefarious or malicious or murderous. On the other hand, Saul Goodman absolutely watched Shrek. This man has so much free time on his hands, plus he references pop culture all the time.
Zombies.
And Shrek is literally all of pop culture. There is no way in hell Saul hasn't watched Shrek. I'm not sure about Gustavo Fring though. On one hand, I don't know if he has lots of free time between running his multiple businesses and being a philanthropist, which would work against his watching Shrek. However, at the same time, I feel bad saying that he probably hasn't seen it because he's the funny chicken man. Unfortunately, I have to follow logic, so I'm placing Gustavo in the hasn't watched Shrek tier. Mike Ehrmantraut definitely has watched Shrek, though. He has a granddaughter who stays 8 years old for over a decade. They have to do something together during that time. My grandpa watched Shrek with me once. That basically confirms Mike also did. Gale Bedecker is an interesting case. The show frames him as a well-cultured genius of a man, but really, all he does is talk about vinyl records, make himself tea, and do chemistry. Oh, how special. I do all three of those things in high school and you don't see me bragging. And yes, I am attacking Gale, because despite his whole well-cultured image and detailed description of what's in his apartment on the Breaking Bad wiki, Gale doesn't own a single copy of Shrek in any format. Confirmed. How can one be labeled as cultured if you haven't watched Shrek? Gale is a fraud, a liar, a bastard, orphan, son of a whore, and a Scotsman. Huel Babineau and Patrick QB are some of the few characters who get off scot-free at the end of Breaking Bad. This basically confirms that, even if they haven't watched Shrek by the conclusion of Breaking Bad, they still have all the time in the world to do so after the events of the series. I'm giving Huel and Patrick the thumbs up. Now kiss Lydia. I mean, it's possible she watched Shrek with her daughter, but I think it's unlikely because most of her time is spent away from said daughter over the course of the series. If anybody watched Shrek with Lydia's daughter, it was probably her nanny, I guess. I have no doubt in my mind that Todd Alquist has watched all the Shrek movies. But get ready for a jump scare, because I also have no doubt in my mind that his favorite movie is Shrek the Third. I always knew something was wrong with him. Last up is Declan. Who is Declan, you might ask? You know, the guy Walter said the funny line to. Declan, can you even say words? Nobody cares about whether or not this guy watched Shrek, so I'm saying he has it out of spite. So there you have it. The main cast of Breaking Bad has now been divided based on their overall Shrekitude, and unevenly at that. Do you agree with my assessments? Do you disagree? Am I missing someone? Are they in my walls? Let me know in the comments below or by skywriting something above my house. Good day.
My name is Walter Hartwell White. I love Shrek so much. I have all the merchandise and movies. Shortly after my 50th birthday, I prayed to Shrek, thanking him for the life I've been given. Shrek is love, I said. Shrek is life. Hank heard me and called me a bad word. I knew he was just jealous of my devotion to Shrek.